Welcome in, everyone. Appreciate y'all joining us. Got a special episode tonight. We're going to have a guest on, Dan Furman, which, as many of you guys know, is the president of the 502 Circle, which is University of Louisville's, one of the University of Louisville's NIL collectives. So super excited to have Dan on tonight. We have him in here, so if you guys are cool with it, we'll go ahead and get him in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. Hey, Dan, how are you tonight?
What's going on, guys? How are you? You hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. You guys doing all right?
Oh, yeah.
Good,
Beautiful.
man. Give me the
Yes,
scoop.
sir.
Everybody doing well? We,
Yes, sir.
not the outcome we wanted on Saturday, but that's all right. We'll be all right.
No.
Come on. Don't
that's
give me
one
those. Don't hang your head now, man. Come on. We've come way too far.
That's
Way
one
too
that
far for. I said to somebody today, I said, what are you going to get scared now? You just because you play one good team, we're going to get scared? Come on.
it was a gut punch, but it was like I took it. It didn't feel the same. Like I took it like as a more of a. I don't know if humbling is the right word, but it just kind of it lets you know where you're at. Like,
Sure.
you know, you've seen plenty. I still think in that game as you see plenty that you needed to work on, but you still seen so much more than what we've seen in prior years. So
yeah, I think you can just see the level of coaching, right? Like they're going to be coached pretty hard. There's going to be every time they go out there's going to be a system and a method behind the madness, which is really it's a lot of fun. And I think that ultimately you're going to see a fast style of basketball that they're going to get shots up. I think I saw something one of the Twitter accounts put up. I think it was like the end of the first half that if you were to dial it up after the end of the first half based on shot selection and percentages around the analytics on shots that we took a ton of high quality shots, just didn't make anything. Like we just didn't make any good shots. And we were still projected to win the game by 7 based on the shot selection that we took at half. So these guys got a bright future. There's a lot of runway for this team. And I think everybody's still pretty excited about it. Do they have adjustments to make? Yeah, definitely. But I think those coaches are going to be – they're doing everything they can to try and make them, that's for sure.
So the post you were talking about, I know exactly what you're talking about because I was blown away by it too. It was shot quality bets.
Yes.
Put it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were still positive on it, and I was like, that level of like analytics and stuff, I think is insane.
That's
I
incredible.
love how far analytics has come, but
crazy enough, that's a lot of how this team was built. Based off of those analytics. A lot of those analytics did play a big part in who's on the roster, why they're on the roster, and at what point in the process they got put on the roster. So there's a lot behind it.
it's awesome to hear. Other than that, would you, Josh? Do you want to go ahead and start with some questions and stuff, and then we can kind of break it up in between with
Yeah, sure, man. Again, Dan, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, if you just want to get right into it, just like off the top of your head, so how deep is the relationship between the 502 Circle and the athletic department?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, if I'm going a level of 1 to 10, I mean, we're pretty heavily involved with the department all around. I mean, Josh and his team, they've done a great job over the last couple of years of really, making sure they were steadying the ship, but not only finding ways to steady what they were doing, but then also help us build into the future of what college athletics is going to look like. A lot of my day-to-day, I spend a ton of time with Michael Dudas, who still leads the fundraising efforts on the university side or on the athletic side. Set a tone across the board as we're working with everybody that, hey, we're gonna push things pretty fast here. We're gonna run the pace that we're trying to run with some of the best programs in the country. And I'll be the first one to tell you, like they do a great job. There's a lot of great opportunity for us to continue to build with the staff, but I think the biggest thing is NIL is not, everybody probably looks at it and they're like, oh, this NIL collect, they're doing a great job. Like it is a really difficult trek that we're on here, right? We've done a lot of things without any knowledge of what we're doing, simply because the NCAA hasn't quite given us those guidelines yet on where we need to go and what we need to do. Did you guys just set off some fireworks behind me?
I did not.
That's great, but that looks pretty good to me. But ultimately, I mean, from our angle, right? Like this is a really difficult situation that we've been put in. So we're constantly trying to benchmark ourselves, both from the collective side and the athletic department side, talking to other universities about what their situation is, ones that are similar to us from a fan base perspective, probably from a financial upside position in their conference. And we do everything that we can to gather as much information to make sure that we're doing the best that we can, not only just for our athletes, but to put the best product that we can on the court and on the field. So we're really involved with the athletic department staff. They do a great job. I've loved working with them. And obviously my path, I came from the Cardinal Athletic Fund staff. So when Mark brought me on, probably it's almost 2 years ago now, which is crazy. We've been able to take the collective. Those things have been fun, and we've been able to get a lot accomplished.
Cool. Something you hit on is like the most interesting topic in the world to me right now in college athletics, the future of NIL. So obviously the House settlement. Technical difficulties? Is it?
Did I lose you?
Yeah. Can you hear me right now?
I'm back. Can
okay.
You guys hear me? Are we live?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Nice. All right, I'm back. I don't know what just happened. It kicked me out.
I can't hear Max right now.
Sorry about that. I was muted.
I was going to say,
I've never had that happen.
I think it might be on him.
Sorry about that.
But kind of that thing you hit on, the future of NIL. So something that's super interesting to me right now is this House settlement that's coming down.
Sure.
Essentially, like, is there now going to be a balancing act? Because there's ultimately for a university, there's only so much donor power. Is it going to be a balancing act between, like an athletic fund and a collective now more than ever with this coming online?
That's such a interesting question, because I think it depends on what seat you're in, right? I think the way that I'm looking at it, and I could be totally wrong as this thing really starts to evolve, but I'm viewing it more as, look, we had cost of attendance happen. Was it 6 years ago? I don't think cost of attendance was a thing when I was playing. So I think it was about 6 to 8 years ago in that range. And then we had Alston money, which we thought was, kind of like player payments in a sense. Now we have this new revenue share concept. Each of the first 2 times that this happened, we just created a new floor for compensating our athletes. And look, there is a certain I'm fully in agreement with that. Like, our athletes put in a ton of work, they deserve it, and they represent the university well. So in this situation, I think it's going to be really intriguing to see how schools set themselves up for the future, right? Because I think there's going to be schools who decide, hey, we're going to go win championships, and this is what we're going to do to go do that. And some of those larger schools, or schools that are pretty heavily funded, are going to rely on the university to subsidize some of the athlete payments that are coming from revenue share. And then the collective is still going to go raise money on top of that to continue to, if they're going to go ahead and double down on football, they're going to double down on football and try and pull that revenue in from making the college football playoff and being competitive and catching some of the, especially in the conference, there's a ton of success initiatives that you can get through the ACC based on how well you play. I think you're going to see a lot of that, right? And I think you're naive to think that maybe, hey, we're going to do this and that's all that's going to be put out there is just this 20 million plus from revenue share, because at the end of the day, we've been doing this for years in college athletics, right? And what do boosters, what do athletic directors, like, what does everyone want to do? What does everyone get paid to do? And they get paid to win, right? Everybody's got to try and find a way to win. So I think there's a lot to be said for the concept that I'm hearing a lot of is the collectives are going to be the above and beyond, the cherry on top, the, almost like fringe benefits type deal, trying to find ways to create incentives or sweeten some of the deals to get athletes to campus to make the teams that they have as talented as possible. And I think as you're trying to retain and add new talent, that's going to be a big piece. And, we're going to be hopefully prepared for that over the next 6 months as this kind of shapes up and puts us in an arena where, you just, unfortunately, you're like walking down a path that you don't really know what's next in a sense. We're trying to plan for something 6 months in advance. that we have no idea what it's going to look like and what the ramifications are going to be of it. So it's just like we do with everything, right? I feel like we've been really creative. We've been innovative, and we found ways to put 502 Circle at the top of the leaderboard. But now it's, okay, this is going to be a totally different game. So how do we play that game at the highest level possible? And I think you just have to adjust to what you're dealing with. And I think Josh and his staff have positioned themselves well, and they're having conversations with the president and with university administrators to try and figure out, hey, what's the next step to continue not just advancing athletics, but advancing the university with athletics as the front porch. So I'm excited about some of those conversations that are happening. And I think that we'll continue to do our part in making sure that when 502 Circle is, ready to begin, taking on some of that responsibility, we're going to be ready for it.
So something you kind of hit on, you talked about the NCAA not giving a lot of guidance.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a super hot take to say that the NCAA has kind of mismanaged the past few years.
It's been tough. They've been a little bit of a tough run. Yeah. I don't know if there's any politics about that statement anymore. I think it's just pretty straightforward. I think we've had a rough go at it here.
Do you think the federal government will ever get involved with NIL regulation?
Man, I think I think that they definitely, I think they're leaning that direction. I think we're seeing it happen more, like right in front of our eyes almost. Just because a lot of these things that we're talking about, right? We're talking about revenue share in college sports at public universities. Like, this is going to affect and impact a lot of people. This is going to, it's going to impact a certain demographic. It's going to impact a certain demographic of our country in a certain way, right? So they're going to have to be part of some of those conversations and how this all, in my opinion, how it all works together. Because there's a lot of moving parts here. And I, to be totally honest, I'm trying to figure out how they're even going to do some of the things that are in that settlement, right, and get away with it. So I don't know. I may have put a piece of content out here about this over the last few days, but like, I don't know if this is an extremely hot take and saying I don't know if that settlement goes through in its current state. Like, I think there's still a lot of work to be done. I think there's a lot of conversations that need to be had. We're basically creating a concept that is agreed upon by athletes without a ton of athlete input. And I think there just needs to be more voices and more individuals brought to the table that are actually dealing with the day-to-day of NIL instead of, what has always been said to be the leadership voucher in college sports of, conference commissioners and athletic directors. And at times, unfortunately, over the last couple of years, they haven't had that hands-on experience with the NIL landscape, right? So as things are changing, I would love to see kind of the collective association and some other groups in the space have a little bit more of a voice for the athlete. But then also, man, we got to bring the athletes to the table to help make some of these decisions. Because at the end of the day, it's going to impact them the most. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think if you laid it out on the table, in the current state of college athletics, this is probably the most lucrative model for them, for the athlete. So, do we let the pendulum start swinging backwards without any of their input? I don't know. That's fair. So I would love to hear, some more athlete conversation around that to, put through what we could, what we could officially, see the future of college athletics looking like.
Can I say something real quick, Josh?
Yeah.
I think that you just hit on something that like I haven't even thought of at all is, not hearing it from that athlete's side, on that settlement. I've not heard anyone else say that at all. I mean, in my opinion, that's like going in, for a job interview or accepting a job and not agreeing to a salary.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I've not even thought about it like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I would just love to know, like, if they are talking to athletes, who are they? And are they of this generation, or are we talking to athletes from, 15 years ago? Like, because college athletics is totally different than it was. I mean, I finished playing in 2017, and I was a pretty bad baseball player most days. So this whole revenue share thing probably wouldn't have applied to me. I probably would have had to pay into it. But ultimately, like, when you break it down, who is helping make these decisions? Who are we bouncing feedback off of? And or are we just in a courtroom with attorneys trying to make decisions on behalf of people that don't necessarily know what they're signing into? I think there's an honest conversation about, at what point does that conversation start being had with high level athletes that are coming to campus. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. I think we still have a long way to go between now and April when this thing starts to get finalized, and I think that the next 5 or 6 months are going to be really interesting.
Well, my whole thing that I keep going back to with that, but like, let's say you have like a G5 school, a school, they play Division I AA football, they have a decent enough basketball team, they're getting at least a TV deal. How can they afford it? I can understand a school like U of L or a Power 2 or whatever, but those guys, it just doesn't seem.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I don't know quite yet. I think I'm trying to feel that out throughout the course of this basketball season on how the competitive landscape is going to look moving forward, because you're seeing more parity amongst college sports right now.
You are, yeah.
Across the board. Like I saw a quote from Pat Narduzzi today at Pittsburgh. He said, across the board, the ACC is the strongest conference in the country. Like from top to bottom, anybody can beat anybody. Like you're from, I think Miami's still in first place, or maybe SMU's in first place, down to Stanford and whoever's at the bottom of the barrel right now. But anybody can beat anybody on any given day in this conference. And I think that at this level, it's really interesting to see the fact that we've created a ton of parity amongst us, right? Mm-hmm. The question is, how far is the dream of keeping up with the Joneses, right? Like, can a Coastal Carolina continue to keep up with what we're doing at Louisville? And can a Bellarmine continue to keep up with what Kentucky's doing? Like, I just don't know if you're going to put those teams on the floor, or you're going to play something. Like I always think about, like, are you going to put Eastern and Louisville on the same field when, I mean this in all the right ways, right? Like, let's just say, for example, you look at some of the top rosters in the country. I'm not saying that this is ours. This is what, if you look at Oregon and Ohio State play one another, like there's $40 million on the field, 20 and 20. Like, it's pretty flat out. Maybe more than that, right? So those two teams are going out there. I don't know if it's safe to put a team out there with no dollars on the field, right? Or 1 million on the field. Especially in football, I think that gap is going to continue to widen. Basketball, there will still be enough of a talent pool, I think, to keep teams competitive. Because at the end of the day, in basketball, you can't have 5 star point guards, right? It has a pretty quick trickle down effect that I think that you'll be able to keep teams competitive. The interesting one for me is what happens in the Big East. Like, what happens in these traditionally really rich, strong basketball conferences, where if Creighton wants to go win in basketball every year, like, they don't have a football team to report to pay out. So if they want to go and spend that same amount of the revenue share max on men's basketball and women's basketball, then they can go do that. They just have to be able to afford it. And to me, there are strategic ways and unique ways to generate some of that revenue and find opportunities in order to do it. A lot of times it's going to come through the university avenue, right, where the university is going to heavily invest into athletics to make things like that happen, because it's branding and advertising that they could never in a million years pay for as a university. But I think that there's a lot to be said for, hey, look, like, I don't know if this thing is going to look the same in the next few years. And as we keep talking about, I don't know necessarily that there's going to be these super leagues, and I don't think they make a ton of sense. But those Power 4 leagues are going to continue to be stronger and stronger, and the teams are going to be running a lot faster than they are right now, because you can afford to go build out depth on your roster. Your number 2 is going to be as fast and as strong as your number 1. And I think that's the interesting concept. And you're not, at that point, you're kind of putting the argument away that, hey, this is a mid-major team that has enough juice to go compete with Louisville right now. So I think there's a lot of things to think about. But I just saw one of the comments that says Eastern Kentucky's beating Clemson in men's basketball. Like, I
was just looking up that score because I saw that.
Look at the parity amongst college basketball. Like,
I'm having to fight myself from turning on this TV.
I hate that we're getting, like, I hate that we're getting rid of it. Like, I think it is the best product that I can remember seeing across the board. And I hate that it's about to change again in 6 months if they're going to change it, because, I mean, it's a lot of fun. I've got this Kansas and Michigan State game on in the background. Like, these guys are going at it. Like, it's a great basketball game. And then we're going to watch Duke and Kentucky later tonight. And there's a lot of great games throughout the rest of the week. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But I think there's still a lot up in the air on some of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, 502 circle specific, kind of getting into that. If the average Joe, U of L fan, they go to a few games a year, they enjoy the sport or sports they watch it on TV. How's the best way that they can contribute to the 502 circle?
Our memberships are probably your best way to contribute to 502 Circle. We're in the process of continuing to build out some benefits for our $25 a month donors. So we have people who give $25 a month, and that's throughout the course of the year. It's on a rolling schedule. We have benefits and access that we offer throughout the course of the year. We had I don't know if y'all remember, we had an awesome party in the spring at number 15, and it was kind of like the kickoff for PK after we hit the $1 million matching campaign. And just being able to do those types of things more often, I think, are going to be a lot of fun heading into this new stretch of college athletics. But that is like our lifeline. That right there is what I consider like it's our volume fundraising, where we have a ton of people who are investing in 502 Circle. And by bringing them all together, we find out who wants to continue to invest more. And it all adds up. It puts us in a good situation to create some. I mean, you use like the business term of recurring revenue, right? When you see those monthly donations coming in, it's not as frequent as that, because there are a lot of ads and drops as we go. But at the same time, I just love the concept of building a community around this, because our athletes deserve it. And I think there's some of them, man, are so good. Like if you go to a 502 Circle event and there's athletes there, like last night we did a percentage night with Chick-fil-A, and Ashton and Carol went to the one in Stony Brook, and Michael Gonzalez and Charity Looper were at the one on Barstown Road. And like, I was so mad that we couldn't like get to both of them, because I think all four of those athletes are like incredible. I love those guys. Like they do such a good job. They represent us so well. And I think that what they've done for the program has been a lot of fun to watch. That's two volleyball players that are hopefully going to play in the Final Four again at the Yum Center, right? Two football players that have, I mean, crazy history, and to be here for as long as they've been here in the current stage of college sports is nuts. And through two different head coaches. So it's a really cool concept that, with all that's perceivably bad about college athletics right now, there still is a lot of good out there. And it is, in my opinion, man, it's as fun as it's ever been. So, those $25 a month members and up, like, you guys are crushing it. I love what you guys have been able to help us do. And I think you should take pride in the rosters that we built, because you were a big part of it. And I think that continuing to double down and invest in our program will go a long way.
I don't know if you can answer, but like, what does the balancing act look like between those, like, just fan donations and like a corporate donation, for example? I don't know if you can answer that, so I'm sorry if you can't.
No, it's a great question. It's an interesting dynamic, because there are a lot of individuals who give at a really high level to 502 Circle, right? So I always use it as like, those are more of like they build up our annual fund. It's like the old way of thinking, like in college athletics fundraising, there's an annual fund and then major gifts, right? And our annual fund they've been fantastic. That's more of our community style events-based type of giving. And then there's heavy major gift donors. And of our, I'm just going to use a round number, but I would say, Louisville specifically, if you add the two, I mean, I don't think anybody's hiding it in the fact that throughout the course of the year, we're over a $10 million collective, right? Pretty easily. Of that, probably over 10 million of that is from major gift donations, which is nuts. That is like unheard of. Like, the fact that you can do that in cash every year is really impressive. And that just goes to show the impact that the city has on this program. they're like relentless, man. Like with all we've been through, like this donor base and fan base are absolutely relentless. And they love to win. They love to get after it. Look, I'm gonna be the first to tell you, this is really expensive to do. like what we're doing right now is really expensive to do. This is like, and we are like, as we're a startup, man. Like we are trying to figure it out just as they are. We're trying to build out processes and find ways to keep being competitive and build what we're doing. It is not easy by any stretch. And there are a lot of people like putting a lot of sacrifice forth to try and figure this out. And I think that as it grows, like it's just going to be better for our athletes. Like right now, one of our biggest thing is just like the customer service side of it, right? Like we have over 150 athletes that are signed with us. Like as of right now, I'm trying to offload some so that they can reach out to somebody who has the time to spend with them, right? Because I can't take every one of those on. And I think that as we do that, it'll be a lot of fun, and I think it'll just keep getting better and better and better. But it'll also it'll free up my time to go do what I'm best at and go try and raise money, right? So, as we continue to do those things, we're building out the future model of 502 Circle, and I think there's a bright future.
Awesome, man. I'm gonna let you. I've got one more question for you, then I'm gonna turn you over to these two guys because I've been doing a lot of talking.
Yeah.
Do you have any stories of like any of our athletes at U of L using their NIL for like good causes, like charity, those sort of things?
Yeah, Ashton Gelati's like a baller, man. He's the best. Ashton Gelati could have gotten paid way more money somewhere else. Like let's call it what it is. Like he could have gone somewhere and they would have paid him grossly to come play for them because I think if you look, he's in the top 10 of QB pressures again this year. Like absolute freak, great guy. Who just gets it. He's up for the Campbell Trophy Award, like just flat out one of the best players in college football. He has a program where he supports military veterans and brings them to Louisville games. He pays for it himself. Like he goes on, he raises money, he has donors donate or buy tickets, and then he puts his own money in to buy even more tickets and then bring as many veterans as he can to the games. And that to me, like, is one of the coolest initiatives that we have. We work a lot with Delta Foundation down in the West End doing hoops and homework. So we send athletes down there to go do that. And our athletes are beyond generous with their time when it comes to that. I just think that those types of initiatives are fantastic. And I think that the more that we can ingrain our athletes in the philanthropic side of the community, the more opportunities that we have from a donor standpoint. But then ultimately, like it's contagious, right? The more that the best players on the team are out doing that stuff, it gives the rest of the guys a reason to go and you go and participate in things they typically wouldn't. And then who knows the relationship that they're going to build with kids from the West End or underserved parts of our community, and those relationships are something that could last a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much. I'm going to throw you over to these two guys because I've been asking a lot, and I know they're itching to get in there.
You're good, man. I love it.
You're good. Cam, you want to go or you want me to go?
You can go ahead, man.
All right. Yeah, you were speaking on Ashton. I think that's awesome. So I was actually, before I started the Cardinal Companion earlier this year, actually Veronica and Ashton, Veronica had reached out, and I got a set of tickets last year from that. I love that program. That's something that like I was trying to share it every day when they were doing it this year. Absolutely love that. But I guess one thing, so there's so many questions about NIL that fans and stuff just don't know. They don't,
Sure.
I think there's a lot of they don't know, the NIL collective's actual role in it. So one question that we get asked quite a bit, and I did want to bring that on, how much, or if any, does the collective actually work on, say, the recruiting side of it, or is that just strictly to the programs?
This is great. Well, first things first, it's a great question. But it depends on the program. For football and men's basketball, it is constant. As crazy as it is, and I think you guys have had a lot of conversations with agents. I'm typically their first contact, depending on which school it is, right, or which agent it is. So a lot of agents have I've built relationships with them over signing players for the last 2 years, and they trust what we do. We've had a lot of success with it. We've had players like Jamari Thrash and Jack Plummer and Willie Tyler and Eric Miller, guys come through that have all had a ton of success. So those agents that have had guys go on and play in the NFL are pretty quick to send guys to us when they can. And then we also have a lot of guys on this roster that their agents are now trying to send us guys for next year because they've had a good experience for the first. We're 10 months in, so which is crazy. But it's what it really comes down to is we are constantly trying to make sure that we set our programs apart, and there's a lot of restrictions and limitations from a university standpoint on how much they can recruit or who they can recruit and when they can recruit them. I don't have those restrictions. So I'm working my tail off and my team is working their tail off to make sure that we're having as many conversations as we can. Let's call it what it is right now. Like there's a ton of names that are just coming across our desk all day long for potential portal opportunities. Right. Hey, this kid's not happy with the situation that he's in. This kid's not happy with the situation that he's not getting the ball enough. His NIL situation is jacked up. He wants to do this. He wants to do it. So we're constantly fielding those phone calls, having those conversations. But then, to be honest with you, we're not. Everybody that's watching this knows what positions we need next year, right? So we're constantly shopping. We're in the market, and we know what we're trying to do. We have a really good system on it. I love. Our recruiting staff does a great job. Our coaching staff's really they're 100% invested on making sure that we get the right guys. And I'll be the first to tell you, like we've missed on some guys in the sense of we've just brought some guys that didn't make sense for this program into the program, and that didn't work out. So I think we learned our lesson. We got burned a little bit there, but that happens, right? This is what we do. It happened 10 years ago and it's still going to happen now. It has a little bit of a different sting to it now. So, and everything's a lot more public. So, for me, I think there's a lot of things that we need to do moving forward to make sure that we're staying on top of the analytics, the player and talent acquisition side. And then we also need to make sure we retain the guys that we have. So we're constantly trying to balance all of those. We're going back through, we're having conversations right now with players on the current roster to make sure they feel good about their situation for next year, working through some of those numbers. And then that gives us an idea of like, okay, here's where we are with the guys we have coming back. This is what we're going to have to spend. So we're trying to evaluate that budget. The numbers are obviously going to skyrocket going into next year, which is crazy. I'm hearing some of these like quarterback numbers. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, man, dude, I wish I was a little more fleet of foot, throw a little bit. I go back and try it. Because these guys are, it's unbelievable. You're hearing you're hearing over 7 figures every time you answer the phone. It's like, golly, man, like, is that really where this is headed? So, I think being able to temper some of those conversations, create expectation around what you're looking for and what kind of numbers you have available. But I think that, we're constantly trying to evaluate it with our staff, right, and with our administration. Josh and his team are still trying to figure it out right now too, right? How much revenue share are we going to have? What can we really afford? And I don't want to get turned upside down. So we've been working way too hard for the last 2 years. Like this, I don't know if a lot of people really understand the dynamic of NIL, right? Like NIL was created 2 years ago, and everybody just had to dive in. Like there was no real runway about exactly what we were working on. So in the real world, when you break this down, like there's a lot of collectives that are just you have to, if you wanted to win, you had to go out and you had to promise out contracts, or you had to be able to go out and sign contracts with athletes, and then you're fundraising every month to meet those numbers, right? It is a nightmare. Like it is really difficult to do.
You're fighting out of a deficit, essentially.
Oh my God, it's always a challenge, right? And any collective in the country that's like, dude, it's smooth here, like you're lying. Either you're lying or you're not going to win because you're not doing anything, right? So, and I have those conversations with my colleagues like all day, every day, and we're just trying to figure it out every chance we get, right? But as these collectives become more and more mature, and schools can help fund them, and there's things that we can do on that front. We're not quite at that point yet because of our state legislation, but we're trying to find unique ways to create revenue opportunities that are recurring. Right. So whether that's through local business revenue shares, memberships, we're I'm going to break the news on here. My staff's probably going to kill me, but we're working on a new business alliance that we're going to have out almost like a business chamber. That's going to allow people to network with each other. You're basically going to have a little sticker in your window on your business that you're a 502 approved business, like all that kind of stuff.
That's
right?
Awesome.
Those are the types of things that are going to keep building community, create opportunities, and then help sustain this long term, so that while the school's doing their revenue share thing, we can help go be competitive on the other side of it too. But man, it is a dog eat dog out here, and the collective, we've had a lot of success, and we're still a long way from home from this year. As crazy as that is, we only got like less than 2 months left, but we do everything we can to fulfill what we promised out, and that may take us until the end of January to do, but we work our tail off, and we try and figure it out and work it through with these guys. But it's been a lot of fun.
I definitely believe it. You brought up, we've had some agents and stuff on, and that's one of the things, like through those and just conversations that, not even been on here, that just have outside of, our shows and stuff. Not a negative word has ever been spoken.
I appreciate it, but I will say this, man. Like those guys have been good to us too. Now they bring us players, and we have really good working relationships with a lot of agents that. There's good ones and bad ones, right? Just like in anything in life, just like in any business. And the guys that do a good job, they manage their players the right way. They set expectations. Like they're so much easier to deal with. And that is just, they understand that this is an ever evolving industry that has change, and there's barriers, there's things that come up, and we just need to set expectations, right? And just do the best we can to figure this thing out. Those are the best guys to work with, and they're typically the guys that carry these dudes to the NFL, right? They're the guys that wind up with these guys at the next level. They're the guys that are successful and typically have 6 or 7 guys in the NFL already when they're coming here. They're just so much more mature and polished about what they're doing. So kudos to those guys, any of those guys that, they ever have questions from me, man. I'm half the time I'm helping them refer guys to other schools. Like I'm like making phone calls. Like, hey, you guys should take this kid. Like, we don't have a positional need, but this kid can play, and his agent's great. So whatever you need to do to get him that max contract from your collective, go ahead and do it. Because when you get a good agent, it makes things totally different. And I've been pretty strong on some of the agent conversations, right? And I know you guys had David Benzakin on here, and I'm firm with David. We have great conversation about some of the guys he has, some of the guys he's repping, and I challenge him, like, dude, go sign more guys, because the more guys you can sign, the more guys you do things the right way with, the higher percentages that you have of carrying them to the NFL. But there's a lot of really good agents out there, and if you have good representation as a player, man, it can change the game.
Awesome. I would say, like, through the season and then also through the off season, how much contact does the the collective have with the athlete and vice versa?
With the athlete, it's pretty consistent. We're trying to up our communication on that. Like we just don't have enough. We haven't had enough staff to really be as proactive as I'd like for us to be. I would say you typically talk to most guys once or twice a month. There's other situations where you talk to a kid quarterly, and you just keep rolling through what you're doing. And then I try my best. I haven't been able to. We've been so busy on the fundraising side that I haven't been as able to get out to football practice like as I used to. But from a football standpoint, like if I can go out to practice, say hello to the guys and just touch base or stop by basketball, at least they know I'm there. And you can have some of those conversations. I think that's always a positive. But we do have a lot of communication with the guys, and it's not always the easiest thing to do to cover over 150 athletes, but we do our best to get back when we can, and we try and figure it out. No, that's a good question though. It's not recruiting, because it's guys on the roster. That was your question, right? Guys on the current roster. How often are we talking to guys on the current roster?
Yeah, just communicating. Yeah.
Yeah. Now recruiting, oh my God. You'll talk to dudes like all day long, and then they'll go somewhere else. It's like the wildest game in the world. I got into college athletics with like I wanted to work in fundraising because I didn't want to recruit. And then it's like crazy how it all worked, like came full circle. I was like, wow, man, good luck. Like now in the new college athletics landscape, you don't recruit. Good luck. Like, I don't know what you're recruiting and fundraising. So yeah, that's a great question, Robbie.
So, through either media outlets or, people we've spoken with, most people tout the 502 Circle as one of the top collectives in the country. It's been on quite a bit of the media and stuff. So in the position that you're in as, the head of one of the top collectives, what do you see as some like future changes or implementations that could best protect the collective and the players?
That's a great question. There's so many of them. But I think that for one, the easier that it is to fund collectives, the more success that we'll have with our players. Because at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is realistically call it what it is. We're trying to hit a payroll. And it's at the end of the year, you get down to the end of the line and you're just trying to piece this whole thing together and make sure that it all, when you get to the end of it, it all made sense. But the other thing that I'll be the first to say, I despise this, actually. I don't appreciate the second transfer portal window in football. I think if you were, and I would tell anybody that, I actually think that a lot of players would agree with this as well, because they don't want to have a new guy in the locker next to them when they're trying to get ready for fall camp. Like, they've already been in the program for 4 months. Like, let's create a system where, okay, if we want to have free agency, fine. I'm good with that. Like, I have no problem with that. If you want to have an annual free agency period, great. But let's try and create opportunities where athletes are staying throughout the remainder of the season once they get there in January. Because at the end of the day, you have no idea whether you like a place in 3 months or not. Like, I'm not buying it if somebody tells me they did. Because when I would have transferred out of Pittsburgh when I was in college. And it was one of the best things I did not doing that, right? So, and that was after a whole year. But you have to be in a place long enough to understand what it's all about. And we all know it's cold here, January, February, and March. And then like April through the rest of the year, it's like the best weather in the country. So like you just have to like find some sort of happy medium here where athletes are committing to the program that they're going to in January and staying through the course of the season. They need to pull off some of the red shirt rules. Like, if you're playing, man, you got to go play. Like, if they're going to there's conversations about them going to unlimited eligibility. Like, that'll be really interesting to see what that looks like. As long as you're taking classes and in college you can play. Like, those are a lot of things that right now are on the national level and I think could be interesting to watch play out. But let's call it what it is. Like, nobody wants to see guys back out either in the middle of the season. And there are unique circumstances like Lacey where he's hurt and other situations. Like, sometimes you just like, you got to roll with the punches. But if a guy is just like, hey, I'm not playing because I want another year of eligibility and I can go transfer and make, X hundreds of dollars here, hundreds of thousands of dollars over here. I don't like that. Like, I don't think that that's what we're here for. I don't think that that's fair to the donors, to the fan base, to the collective, to the administrators, to the coaches whatsoever. Like, there is nothing about that makes any sense. That is the stuff that we should be talking about from a national landscape about trying to get right. Like, we're talking about all this stuff and not including the athletes and revenue share conversation, whatever it is, and then turning around and creating situations where it's almost like the stuff doesn't. Some of this stuff doesn't even make sense. Like, it literally doesn't. You're like, what are we doing right now? Who's coming up with these concepts that we're just letting athletes do whatever they want throughout the course of the season? Like, if an athlete is playing on a roster at the Power 4 level, like, I want to go see what they got. I want to see the best of their ability for if it's 12 weeks, 13 weeks, whatever it is. Give us the best that you got, because at the end of the day, the end goal is not to play college football. The end goal is to play in the NFL. And you don't know who's going to do that. If guys are just backing out and trying to make money here and do this and that. Let's create a system that makes, if that's the case and we're going to allow that, then let's make a system that makes sense for that. But until then, we have to put guardrails around some of that stuff. And, I think that, the more success that players have in doing it, the worse of a precedent it creates. So hopefully that stuff doesn't continue to stream on or fly on, because we got to get rid of some of that in the game.
It's so funny that you said that, because now that I've heard you say that, I've heard someone from the collective standpoint, someone actively coaching, players, and agents all say they need to get rid of the second portal season.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, like, who's having who's making the decisions? Everybody's trying to. If you put everybody in the arena, like everyone that's actually dealing with this stuff at a table, that would be the number one priority. It's like, yeah, let's just eliminate the second portal window. Make the first one longer if you want, but get rid of the second one.
And to me, that's crazy. The end of it. It's crazy to me, because you can take some of the positions where, say one guy, doesn't want to finish the season out. Well, it genuinely can affect, if that's a skill player, quarterback, something like that, it genuinely affects the entire, not just the program, but that affects, you're talking affecting other players' draft stock and stuff like that. I think it's exactly.
Yeah.
I try not to be too specific.
I'll be specific. It's UNLV. It's the Sulcus situation.
Like that those situations, I think it's crazy because, it's not just you're making a decision that affects everyone else and their future. And I 100% agree. I think that's insanity.
They just put us at 19 in the CFP poll. That's pretty good right there. Go up a few.
We're in striking distance. Distance.
You're in the teens, man. You win at Stanford. You never know what chaos is going on up top. So
we literally had a conversation into last week.
Did y'all see the Josh Pate thing today? He's like, Louisville's a top 15 caliber squad. I love that.
I love Pate.
He's been hot on us all season, man. He does his
so let's talk about it though. Like, you play, your 3 losses are the Notre Dame game, man. Like, let's call it what it is. We should have won. Like, we're right in that game. We played well. We're in the mix. They fumble the opening kickoff, and we lose the game, right? So we're right there. Then you go SMU at home, which is like SMU is turning out to be a really good squad. They're not getting they're getting love, but they're not getting the love they probably should be after that first loss early in the season. And then look, Miami might have lost this weekend, but anyone who tells me Miami is not loaded is fooling themselves, because that is a loaded football team, and that the quarterback can straight sling it. And Restrepo is a dude too. So
Restrepo has been a pain in my side for years now.
Yeah. And Ruben Bain just like picks people up and moves them. So like, that is a good football team. That's 3 really high quality losses. And to be honest, we probably should have won at least 2 of the 3 when you break it down. But they got the second team out as SMU right there. So I mean, it's going to be interesting. But this is a really good football team, and I hope they finish strong because they deserve it. I think they deserve it. The coaches deserve it. They put together a great squad. So hopefully we can finish up strong. You always want to win that last one too.
Oh
yeah.
I don't even want to talk about it yet. We'll come on and do that again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll ask one more and I'll let Cam throw some in here real quick. Trying to figure out one. Do you see so right now, with the NIL landscape, with the collectives, I feel like they get the primary focus from people and the outside looking in from us that don't understand the collectives and how NIL works through and through. How much would you say that like direct business and player NIL contracts, how frequent and lucrative are those, or not lucrative, but how frequent are those versus just straight players that work straight with the collectives?
The most of NIL at this point is collective driven. As crazy as that is, I think there is definitely a marketplace there for athletes, especially if they brand themselves right. That's why we put Fletcher Media together. We really have tried to create a new model with Fletcher Media where we're not just packaging together one individual athlete and taking them to a brand and trying to get a deal across the finish line. We're taking them as a collective, as a whole, right? We kind of took the collective saying or the collective concept to heart, and we're trying to take all of our athletes as a whole to businesses and local sponsors, and then also regional and national companies to tap into some of those brand dollars. And we've had a ton of success with that. Floyd Street Media is blowing up, and we've got some really exciting stuff coming there. Like we're not even like at the tip of the iceberg yet with Floyd Street Media. So there's a lot more content coming your way. We've had some key hires that are going to continue to blow that out. But I think that's something that this entire group should be proud of. You know, the entire group that's supported 502 Circle from the beginning, because we've been able to go identify an issue, right? And our number one issue was finding ways to build brands through our athletes and local companies, right? Because unfortunately, it just wasn't catching any traction. Some of these like individuals, their social media, it's so hard to build up an individual social media presence. Like it is really hard to do. It takes a ton of time. Normally it's taking at least 12 months to do. There's algorithms and you just have to keep cranking it out. We were getting to the point where it was like, man, this is like impossible to do, especially with transfers because they're only here for a year. So if we can build it through Floyd Street Media and podcasts and player-led shows and athlete-driven content, it just gives them so much more of an opportunity to build their brand fast and do it in a reputable way where we're putting the right content out at the right time. So, I think that's where we've focused a lot of our time. And I think that our athletes love that because it doesn't put them on an island where they have to go out and seek deals or their agents are bringing them deals and the deals are a little choppy. They're not producing their own content, all that kind of stuff. We're doing it for them. It's high level stuff and it's stuff that lives on their page and goes to show, hey, this kid's pretty talented. They're pretty good at what they do. So it definitely increases their stock big time.
I want to give kudos to you guys about Floyd Street Media also. As a big media guy, I absolutely
appreciate it, man.
I think it's one of the coolest things you guys have done.
Well, give us some ideas, man. We're always open to contact you. I'll be waiting for your email.
I'll hit you up.
New content, seriously. So now's the time. We're always open.
Yeah, I love it. So I work in marketing myself, and so the whole NIL landscape, like I find extremely just so interesting, almost just on that business level, because there's so many things that's really similar, but kind of like where you were hitting on earlier, you don't know, what's going to happen next year. Whereas, I'm sitting through a week of planning for next year because I know exactly what's going to happen next year. So I think that's really cool. It's a totally different side of what I get to do on a daily basis as well. But
that's awesome.
All right, Cam, we'll get you in here and get some questions off.
First of all, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, I mean, I'm going to re-say it, but I appreciate you coming in here, taking your time to do this. I don't think there's ever been a time in Louisville's history to where we've been able to have this availability or like this connectiveness to like the coaching staff or anything, related to that type of stuff. So I really appreciate you taking your time, but I'm going to ask you a couple questions. And my first one is, how does the 502 collective differ from other NIL collectives in the college landscape?
That's a fantastic question because it depends on which one of us at 502 Circle you're talking to, right? I think we all see our strengths and weaknesses as a little bit different. One of the biggest things that I see from a 502 Circle standpoint that sets us apart is we're not like, I say this kind of half joking, but like we're not scared, right? Mark Spiegel, who founded this and started this from the beginning, from the get-go, when I took the job 2 years ago, was like, dude, I want you guys to fail. I want you to try it. Be innovative, be creative. And that oftentimes, because the university is in a university system, they're public, they don't have the ability to go try things and go out on a limb and fail and then recreate themselves, right? We've done it all, right? We've seen it, we've tried it, we've experimented, and I think that we finally are starting to like catch a groove on some of the things that work for us. But having done that early has put us in such a different situation now that NIL is becoming more and more prominent as this moves forward. But ultimately, what sets us apart, like the number one thing is the fan base. Like our fan base loves this. Like they love the fact that we're kind of like that underdog mentality. We're punching above our weight a little bit. And if you'd have told me, I probably, not gonna lie, I'm probably cocky enough that I'd have been like, yeah, we'd have been in the top 10. But we were one of the top 10 collectives. Like, look at some of those football teams that are in that top 10 category. I mean, if you go down that list, man, like that is a heavyweight list from On3. So we're not afraid to put our name in those conversations, compete with some of those folks, and do everything that we can to put the best product on the court and the field. And I'll be the first to tell you, like, that is not that like this has been a journey over the last few years, man. Like we've tried it, we've tried things, we've figured it out, we failed, we've had success. But at the end of the day, like the fan base has always gotten behind us and gotten right on board for the next thing that we've done. So I think we're going to keep being experimental. We're going to continue to serve as that, innovator and creative arm for the athletic department. And we'll ride it out until it becomes time not to do it anymore. But I think that's what set us apart, and that's what's going to continue to give us an advantage over, schools that we're directly competing against, especially on the recruiting trail.
Absolutely. A quick question. I apologize if you've answered this before, but how did you get introduced to this landscape? Like, how were you brought forth into this, where you are right now?
Oh God. It's so funny. Like I was working in major gifts fundraising. So like at the end of the day, let's call it what it is. Like NIL isn't anything without cash. Like you can't do it without money. So everybody in the beginning was like, oh, you do this and build brands and do that. And I was like, hold on a second. Like at the end of the day, athletes want to know why they should come to Louisville, right? Well, you're going to come here because it's the pro team in town. Okay. There's a huge audience. There's over 1 million people that live here and all eyes are on you. You're going to get treated like a pro from the second that you get here. There's going to be big time opportunities for you to play in a 62,000 plus seat stadium with, 85 suites and field suites and field seats. And it's electric. You're going to go to the Yum Center. There's going to be 22,000 plus people there rocking when you're winning, the number one team in the country, all of it. They're going to be there through it all. And in my opinion, like when you really break it down, like this place is special. Like there's a lot of things about Louisville that set us apart. But I think when you really get to the nuts and bolts of who we are as a city, like we care so much about college sports. And I think moving forward, as we continue to grow into this next age of college athletics, us being able to double down on that is going to be important. So I was working on the major gifts fundraising side in athletics, and it kept like this NIL thing kept coming up, and Vince Tyre was the AD at the time. And Michael Dudas, who's still on staff, we're all like sitting there. We're like, man, facilities just like don't have the appeal that they used to in the recruiting process. Well, that's because now there's NIL, right? And there's all these new flashy things. There's all these trends in college athletics. We're like, well, man, how do we do this whole NIL thing at a really high level? And at the time, like university employees couldn't really dive into it. So it was like really gray. I was like trying to find ways. I'm like, man, I want to do this. Like I'm gonna go get these guys deals, man. I'm gonna get them a deal with Mark's Feed Store, getting lunch at the whole lineman in it. You guys will love this story. So one of the first NIL deals we did or facilitated at the time, I don't even know. There weren't even rules at the time, I don't think, because it was so new. But we weren't supposed to go. I don't think we were supposed to go facilitate the deal. I don't even remember. I don't know how this all works at this point because it's so far. Those rules are so far gone. But so we set up all of the offensive linemen to go to Mark's Feed Store and have dinner. And they were all going to get paid $100 for going, which at the time was like, yeah, $100, that's great. Well, they go and all the guys are like, well, we're not doing this unless we get $500. And the owner was like, all right, guys, we'll have a good one. You guys take it easy. So we get the phone call. They're like, dude, like you guys set me up. And I'm like, I don't know what you're we don't even know what you're talking about. They're like, well, they came in here asking for $500 a piece, like not 100. So I just I love these fireworks in the back. They must.
Are you on a live somewhere else?
They must love that story, man. That's pretty good. But I just thought it was so intriguing that like there was no steady, like there was no balance in what we were doing. There was no actual like conversation that was actually happening where I was showing up on site and helping these kids execute a deal and getting it done the right way and being like, no, sit down and do the thing. Take your $100 and we'll get you 500 next time, right? And we were like taking kids down into New Louisville. I don't know if y'all remember this, but there's a picture of Amari Huggins Bruce like sitting on the front of a I forget what kind of car it was. I think it was like a Maserati or something. It was like sitting on the front of a Maserati. And we like started putting it in recruiting, pitch decks, and this, and we basically like built this this image around Louisville, like NIL Louisville, like NIL Louisville, right? And there was this huge push behind it. And then Pierce committed, and then DeAndre committed, and Ruben committed. It just was like a snowball effect. That there was all this excitement and branding around what we were doing. A lot of that obviously is different now because there's just been changes in personnel, coaches, and whatever it might be. But we've still been able to capture some of that audience, some of that excitement that we got through that. So I was sitting there and it started to get to the point where like athletes were coming to me directly. They were like showing up in my office like, yo, man, I never got paid from this deal or that deal. And I'm like, well, dude, I don't even know the actual inner workings because I work for the school. So like I can't get in the weeds on any of this stuff. It was like illegal to get in the weeds on some of this. So it finally became a conversation between myself and Josh and Dudas to try and figure out like, hey, would it be realistic for you to go and work with Mark at the collective and help get this thing off the ground and integrate into the current landscape of what we're doing? And fortunately enough, I made the leap. It just was like, you know what, I'll gamble on myself and go have fun trying this. And I always tell Mark, and I tell this story all the time. I think when I started, it was like it was so new. Collectives were so new. We had $12,000 in the bank account, so like we were just like trying to figure. I didn't even have enough to like pay my salary for the year or nothing. And Mark was like, "I'll take care of it. Like I got you. Like I got you." And I was like, "Well, thanks, dude. I appreciate it. You're making me feel pretty good." So, and he's done an unbelievable job helping fund this from a staffing standpoint and keeping us going. So, there's been a lot of people along the way that have stepped up and made this successful, but we literally couldn't do this without the donors getting behind it. Like I said, you can't do NIL without the money to do it. So, are we where we want to be? Are we at the peak of where I think we can be? No, nowhere close. Do we have a lot of work to do? Yeah, absolutely. But it's been a fun ride to this point. I hope that we can just keep doubling down on what we're doing and keep getting better because I think there's a lot of fun times coming for Louisville fans across the board.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of the athletes, and no specific athlete in general, but how do you determine the value of an athlete's NIL rights and what factors into that influence?
Yeah, it's all about market value. So when I say market value, you'd think like, okay, well, market value, man, you're worth a certain amount based on your Instagram followers. Like, no, throw that out the window. At the end of the day, in college athletics right now, the way that the landscape is set up, you're worth what another school is willing to pay you to come to their school, right? So if Wake Forest and Louisville are recruiting against each other, I try and get this message across a lot, and a lot of people don't really understand it. It's like, no, they're not worth that. Well, you don't know if they're not worth that, because if they're worth that to somebody else, they are worth that. If you really do want them and you want to win the recruiting battle, like, they're worth that. So it just keeps going up. Like, those numbers can go up, they can go down. And you just have to play the game of like, okay, at what point are we bowing out? Or at what point are we still staying active? Are we a full go to get this kid across the finish line? And I think that as this continues to develop, hopefully that will stabilize itself a little bit more. And there will be kind of like a public range for some of these positions, because right now you're just flying blind. Like, there's no there, and that's why I think there's good agents and bad agents, right? And the best agents, they call you and they're like, dude, look, I had a conversation with a guy yesterday. He called me and he was like, hey man, this got up to $1 million a year over 2 years. And I was like, so that means $2 million deal over 2 years, $1 million. I'm like, all right, we're out, dude. Like, it's just not worth that. Like, that is not the value right now. we're going to get a better player than that. And that's not saying the kid's a bad player. He's phenomenal. He's probably going to be a potential All-American in college, right? But that doesn't make sense. Like it all is based on your roster at the time, the value you have coming in, the value you have that you're trying to retain. And you have to make decisions that are best for the program. We got lopsided in the spring, and we had to go back and correct some things. We brought so many portal guys in that it almost like gave us a skewed roster, right? Where some of the guys who had been here earned their stripes. And so we're trying to prevent that going into next year. So we're already trying to get out in front of that, but you live and learn. You don't know until you know. But we're trying to get out in front of those things. And I think that, it's just crazy how the market is so driven by your competition. But that's any business. Like, let's call it what it is. If one of us four on here want to go get another job and have a sweet job offer to go do it, okay. If your current employer don't want to match it, man, you're probably going to go. Like, and it's just fair market value across the board. That's why I'm so confused. I'm going to be the first to say, like, and I'll have this conversation with anybody because I want to understand it more. They're like, everybody's just like, the athlete has to get paid fair market value. Well, dude, what's the fair market value? I don't know. Like, the fair market value is whatever somebody's willing to pay for the value. So yeah. If a company is willing to come in and pay $1 million for the kid's value or the athlete's value, how are you going to tell me it's not fair market value? Mm-hmm. That's fair market value. So it's like the literal definition of it. So it's just those kind of things as college athletics continue to develop, I think are going to be really interesting, man. Like, and I can't wait to see it. Because there's across the board going to have to be fundamental changes to this thing. And it's not as straightforward as everybody's making it out to be. Oh, they're going to set a value on every position and they're going to you literally can't, like, it's like antitrust. You can't do it. So like, I don't know if we're just losing that concept or what, but I don't know if the exemption is going to happen that quick to the sense of like, you can just kind of come in and do whatever you want. There's still going to be, guidelines that we have to play within.
Well, what I love hearing about – oh, sorry, Max. You want to go ahead?
You can go ahead.
Oh, I love hearing – you hear the train of thought so much of, oh, well, if the players unionize, we can get to these sort of – or student-athletes unionize. We can kind of start to overcome these hurdles.
Yeah.
Well, first off, there's like 15 hurdles you got to get to get to that point in the first place.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's what they want either, man. There's so many things that they're not nobody tells these athletes about. No one's like actually having real conversations with these athletes, and they're not making like educated decisions in the right way. It's sad. But no, that's a great point. I mean, I don't even know if that gets us to a quicker solution. Like, what does that mean, that we collect and bargain, I guess? But
yeah,
if you break it down, like, if I'm an athlete and this is the most lucrative it's ever been to be an athlete in college athletics, why as an athlete are you signing it off to be like, oh, let's change it right now?
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna. I mean, I would imagine that if they actually understood that concept, they'd be like, no way. Like, let's press pause. Here's the data. If somebody actually provided them the real data, it'd be really interesting.
Yeah, because I think so many people get on that because that's how, with the NFL Players Association and stuff like that, they're like, oh, just follow. It's already. So many people say it. It's already there. Just follow it. I'm like, that is a totally different can of worms. I'm like, the NFLPA isn't playing under, a group like the NFL and or the NCAA. Like,
and also with the NFLPA, they don't have a 25% new or 25% membership turnover every single season.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they all stay in the same league for a while too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot more stability across the border. I guess you'd say repetition, because there's just not as many moving parts. Like, this is a ever evolving industry. All of the there's no true owners of the teams. So it's not like you're not like voting across the board. Like, there's no, I guess you could sit ADs in the room and have that vote, but then like those conversations you just don't know what they're going to turn into, because there's schools who have different agendas or different outlooks on their athletic department. So time will tell, but I think it's going to shake up pretty quick here after the first of the year. There's going to be a lot of people looking for answers.
Awesome. I know there will be a lot of people wanting an answer. or ready for answers. I'll put it that way. So, Cam, you got anything else?
Yeah, sorry, I cut out there for a second. Had to rejoin, but another question I had was, how do you educate athletes about the complexities of NIL and help them navigate opportunities?
That's a great question. It's really hard to do. Really, really hard to do. We do the best that we can. There's a lot of complexities around NIL that you don't even like the typical average fan like won't even think about. NIL has turned into such a it's such a public concept that it requires an extreme amount of excellence when you step on the court of the field, because people know that there's a really strong amount of dollars into it, which can affect performance, can affect mental health. It can affect a lot of things, right? But it can also, like, let's call it what it is, man. It heightens the sense of urgency a little bit in a coach's mind. So at the end of the day, now when you step out there, like, there's a dollar figure attached to it, and you have to perform. So in order to keep doing what you're doing and keep your spot on the roster and continue to make strides and be competitive as part of a team and roster, like, you have to participate in a really high level or an excellent way. So everybody wants to earn big, everybody wants to be the greatest thing ever, and everybody thinks they're worth $1 million. But at the end of the day, the numbers are in front of us. Like the analytics are in front of us. The production is in front of us. So there's a lot of baggage that comes with that, a lot of really tough conversations. And this is a really brash thing of me to say, and I've said it. I think sometimes people say, like, we don't ever open the hood, right? But man, like, let's have a real conversation, right? These guys, like, a lot of times you get you get outreach from parents and this and that they're just kids, and there's constant, like, echo across college athletics, like, these are just kids. At some point, like, we got to have a conversation of, like, man, at a certain dollar amount, you ain't a kid no more. Like, this is a business. This is moving fast. This is a game that's being played with other people's money, investing. They're investing into their program, and they want to see you win. They do not want to see you fail. So, like, that goes for the head coaches too. Like, and it's across the board. I think it's created a new level of urgency that coaches want to win now. They need to win now. That's why you see so many head coaches so active in the portal, because you're getting an older team. You're getting a more mature team. Like, you have to be as good as you possibly can be right now. And listen, there are a lot of things about college athletics right now that they're tough conversations, but it's not what it was 2 years ago. College athletics is not what it was 2 years ago. Let's just open that book and have that discussion. And sometimes, man, these conversations suck. Like, do I want to have a conversation that we're not offering a kid next year after we paid them all year this year on the NIL side, and that's basically like cutting a scholarship now? No, I don't. Does anybody want to do that? No, but that is what the ramifications of all this have created. So, Cam, that's like a killer question. That's like a great question, but it has opened up just another can of worms that when you go to the NFL, man, like, unfortunately, this sucks. But if it's the last preseason game and you're trying to make the roster and you get hurt, like, you're getting cut. Like, it is what it is. Like, those types of things. I think no one, and I people can tell me whatever they want. No one is going to be a bigger athlete advocate than I am. I was an athlete. My brothers played. Like, my one brother's still playing. Like, I think our guys are fantastic athletes and great people. Like, and one of my favorite things, I love women's sports. Like, from a women's basketball standpoint, watching that program grow over the last few years, like watching what Danny's done at volleyball. Are you kidding me? Like, it's just been a blast, right? But it really, when it comes down to it, when you're talking about those two sports, football and men's basketball, the more that they push for these incredible amounts of revenue and share of what's going on, there's got to be some sort of compromise here, and I think that conversation is starting to happen more and more often. it, at this point, it is what it is. Like that, it's got to kind of hit everybody square in the eyes of like, hey, man, and until like if you want to be paid by the university and you want this to happen, and like this isn't just a handout. Everybody's got to perform and and do what they need to do. So we do our best on both sides. We have a lot of those conversations with the guys, and they're tough, but we do everything that we can to help these guys out. We don't like we got a pretty good crew, man. Like we don't have a lot of that going on right now, but I know it's happening across the country, and some collectives and coaches have to deal with it. So we just do our best to try and steer clear of those situations, but it starts in the recruiting process of knowing who you're bringing in.
Absolutely. Like what you said, when it comes to these kids and having to realize, when it comes to a dollar amount, you got to realize when these kids are becoming adults, and especially like after high school, these kids are becoming adults and they have to realize the position that they're being put in and not speaking.
Definitely.
Go ahead.
No, I just said definitely, you're right.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people give, I don't know what the word is, but like a lot of people give towards the kids side and say that like, yeah, they're kids and they're coming out of high school. But when it comes to the money side or anything, like these kids got to grow up at some point. And it seems like within this culture, there's like a built-in, like give me type of vibe. And
yeah, at times. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not more centered around go out there and prove it. And sure. It just seems like a problem. But speaking on the financial side, what, if any, what financial models do you use to ensure sustainability for both the collective and the athletes?
It's kind of like that's a multi-pronged question, but I think when you break it down, we do everything that we can to just make sure the deal is fair across the board. You got to look at it as a whole, and you're looking at the whole team saying, how do we perform for what we paid for it? That's really hard to look at like individual situations, because at the end of the day, like that's like looking at an NFL roster and being like, is every guy worth every dollar that we pay? Like, no, you're never going to get that, right? But I think if you do what you need to do, you do your homework, and you build a roster. We've learned that, and I think there's a lot of guys on this current roster that would be like, yeah, man, they're doing a better job going into next year than we did this year, because you just don't know. Again, like I said, in this industry, you just don't know what you don't know. And I think having those conversations with guys now, saying like, hey, man, you've been here 3 years, you've been here 4 years, like we're invested in you now. Like you've done a great job, you've earned it. So that I think that secures some sustainability on our side from a retention standpoint, and it allows us to build a model around what the team's going to look like next year. I think from a player standpoint, if they do the right things, man, like we'll love them. Like it's really not that hard. Like, and for them to create some financial sustainability for themselves, like if they come here and do the right things out of the gate, and they perform what their role is, like, they'll get taken care of. But it really comes down to like, man, the generation that we're working with right now, and I would even say like our generation too, like if you show up, do the right things, and you put the work in, you've got a really good opportunity to just continue to elevate yourself. The grass isn't always greener, and there's not always, a pot of gold sitting on the other side that looks and smells like it's all gonna be perfect. Because typically, if it looks like that, it's not gonna be. So, I feel like we've done a pretty dang good job, and I think a lot of guys leave here pretty happy. So, and they have a great football experience and they're gonna have a great basketball experience moving forward as we go on.
Absolutely. I'm going to finish with one more question, but again, I really appreciate you taking your time coming in here. This availability that we have to you guys, the entire university is just something that can't go underestimated, and My last question to you is, what is the most rewarding aspect of your role as the president of the 502 Circle?
There's a lot of really cool parts of my role and my job. It's not always as like glamorous and shiny as people make it out to be, or sometimes it may seem. It's a grind. You've got to be willing to put in 20 hours a day for an extended period of time, right? Like you're always trying to find ways to give Louisville an advantage, a competitive advantage. But I think at the end of the day, that is the most, that to me is the most rewarding part of our jobs. The most rewarding part of our jobs, outside of seeing the athletes have success, is watching the look on our fans and our donors' faces when we win a game. Like you go down to Clemson and you win that game. Or, I always think back to like when we played Michigan at home. We were number 1 in the country and we beat the brakes off them, right? Those are the types of experience. I remember standing next to one of our, and he's a 7-figure donor for the collective, and I'm standing next to him on the sideline. at the Notre Dame game, and the game is we're about to kick off, and the place is like packed. This was last year, and I looked at him and I was like, dude, like we would be nowhere near this without you, right? And he was like. He like almost started tearing up. He's like, this place is unreal. He's like, I can't believe how packed it is in here right now. Because to be honest, before I started here, like 6 years ago, he wasn't even a sport. Like he didn't even care. Like he was just like, then you get him out to a game and he's more and more involved. Now he's like tied into all the players. They're like his kids, and you watch this whole thing happen. And you're standing there, you're like, dude, that's pretty freaking cool. It's just a really cool opportunity to watch other people relate themselves to Louisville Athletics, because we often, like me in particular, I oftentimes like take for granted the access and the I guess the availability that we get from the coaches and the players, like that other people like dream of that and love that. And I think that as this moves forward, man, that's the more and more that we can open up that side of the operation. Like you guys are going to love it. It's happening. It's coming in fast. Like it's happening quick. Nobody's better at that than Kels. He loves it. He's like, bring him in the locker room, man. Come on. He's like, bring him on a road trip. Like, let me call him. I'll call him. He's like, I love it. He loves it. And Coach Brom is the same way. Like through the spring, you go out to practice. There's people out of practice all the time. There's people coming through the building just to sit in his office and hang out and say hello, right? Like the more that we open those things up to people, the more of a relationship they build with our players and coaches. And I think that's what creates. We've talked a lot tonight about like sustainability, right? Like that is what creates the sustainability of what we're doing. When you create a true community and reason behind what we're trying to accomplish. So it's a lot of fun, man. And it's, it's not always sunshine, pineapples, and freedom, but it's definitely like, I wouldn't trade it for the world. So hopefully we keep getting some added pressure, and this basketball team keeps getting better as we go. So we got a fun stretch here in hoops, and we got the first time playing at Stanford over the weekend. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. That Stanford game has been one that I've had circled just for how different it is.
Definitely.
From just going to the West Coast to, playing a team we've never played to, the time zone differences and things like, I don't know. I guess some of the guys on the team might have got a little bit taste of it playing in the Holiday Bowl last year.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, I mean, that's the closest really that I'd say majority of this team's, probably, or the farthest majority of this team's travel.
Sure.
It's just, it's a
Most
crazy
of these
concept.
Guys may have never been to California before. Some of these guys have probably never been there.
Yeah. So it's a crazy concept. Still having Stanford and even Cal, I forget about them, but with them not being on the schedule, but yeah. So, well, Josh, you got any more questions, my man?
No, man, I don't. Again, Dan, thank you so much for setting this up and giving us some time out of your evening. It's been a really fun conversation, and
always, man. I'm sorry. I probably was too long-winded on some of these, but
no, it does perfect.
Hopefully it was good, man. Hopefully some people enjoyed it. It's probably one of the more open conversations we've had about NIL. Now that it's like getting to that point where we're close to rev share, and I love having some of these open conversations and just being transparent about what we're doing, because there really is, in our system, like there's not much behind the curtain anymore. We've built out a system that has been pretty fun, and ultimately, like we'll be the first ones to tell you, man. Like we're still trying to figure it out too. And our athletes are too. So it's one day at a time, but man, support 502 Circle, support Floyd Street Media. If you have a business and you are trying to market in this community, whether that's on TV, on social, whatever it is, we have mechanisms to build around at Floyd Street Media. Like that is an unbelievable way for you to build your business, build your brand, and collaborate with our athletes and help support the university at the same time. So there's a lot of fun stuff to get into here over the next 6 months before some of this rev share stuff starts flowing. And then we're going to continue to pivot and create a really cool platform, not only for the collective, but for everybody involved. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Look forward to that so much. And, that's one thing you brought up, just the transparency. That's one thing that, we try to get that on here, staying within the guardrails, kind of like we talked about, but, just try to get other aspects of it, other people's, opinions, and just to see, kind of peek behind the curtain on what, a lot of people don't see and don't understand about it, because college athletics has just changed so much in the last couple of years. I think you've just got so many fans that, that genuinely, I think I don't even think it's, disrespectful to say, like, the average fan that, doesn't really care about NIL or doesn't understand NIL, I feel like you really only understand like 50% of college athletics now.
Yeah, 100%. It's crazy. Well, we're always here to educate people, man. Anytime somebody has a question or wants more information about 502 Circle, we can share as much as possible, right? Obviously, there's legal things that we got to be careful with sometimes, but I'll give it to people straight. There'll be times where somebody will catch me at like a bar. I'm just like, man, look, here's what happened. Here's how this rolls. So anything that I can do to help kind of clear some of that stuff up, I'm always open to it. And I think it's the future of college athletics. There's so much investment in this thing that I think everybody deserves an opportunity to hear kind of what we're doing and understand it on a little bit of a deeper level. So let's go win some games here to finish out this football season. We need 3 more, baby. Let's go.
We do.
We got these last 3.
Yes, sir. But Dan, I appreciate you coming on. I know all the guys here do. I know all our fans and followers do. And definitely, if you guys are not contributing to the 502 Circle, get in there. You can get in there for is it $25? Is that the lowest now?
Yeah, $25 a month. But anything helps. Anything helps. Yep. There's a link to give one time as well. And be a part of it. We got some really cool stuff coming up. Obviously keep an eye out on that the business alliance stuff that we're working on, and get involved in Floyd Street Media. There's a ton of marketing opportunities, ton of advertising opportunities for you to build your business, build your company's brand, and find a way into the landscape that isn't the the top tier from a financial standpoint or a financial investment. So there's great ways to be involved, man, and I think there's a lot of fun stuff ahead. So I appreciate you guys having me on, and if you ever need anything, man, always holler at us.
Appreciate it, Dan. Thanks for coming on again.
Appreciate you guys, man. Talk to you soon.
Cool.
You too.
Thanks, Sam.
Have a good night. All right, guys. That is
fun.
Oh, love it. Love everything about it. Like I said, I appreciate, him bringing up, the transparency. That's one thing that I think we kind of, I agree with the way I worded that. We try to, push that boundary or push that guardrail, see how firm that is, talk to who we can to try to get, other opinions on aspects of, because there's so much just in that landscape. We don't know. I don't know. I can't tell you. People comment and stuff. And they're like, well, what about this? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I don't work in NIL.
Yeah.
And
and it's sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was gonna say it's not like somewhere you could just go like Google those answers.
Yeah, and the thing is with us, like anytime, no matter who we're talking to, we want to ask realistic questions, but in a respectful way, if that makes sense. And just I really appreciate Dan just Hey, just laying it all on out there.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about him, like about the conversation we just had, is that they're doing a great job at their social media team, but being able to come on here and to speak for what are we going on an hour and a half now, and the like we were just talking about at the end, the availability and just to be able to be that connected and just to be that open to the university, it just you can't underestimate it.
No. And I'm quite confident that there's not too many other programs or pages along the lines doing similar things tonight.
Absolutely.
Or most nights. So, but
Hey,
other than that, guys,
can I just get one thing off my chest real quick?
Absolutely.
Just want to do a little reaction to the college football playoff poll.
Oh yeah, we can pull it up real quick.
Can you pull it up?
Yeah, I've got it on my screen over here because I was trying to check everybody else's.
I know. I felt bad. I kept check for the college football playoff. So we're gonna live react to this. The only thing I know about is Louisville at 19.
Oh, well, I should have started down here then. All right,
let's do it. Okay, still a little too low, but they haven't beat anybody.
Yeah. I don't know their actual. I know they've been disappointing at times, but I don't know their actual schedule enough to argue that.
Do you think the only reason why we're above Clemson is because we beat them?
This is last week.
Oh yeah. You're right. Yeah. See, I was comparing earlier. Sorry. All right, there we go.
Well,
there we go. I like that.
Tulane made it.
I like that. They're good.
I've been saying this for a while. Tulane, even in the offseason, I said Tulane is going to make a splash because they spend a lot of money on their football program, and they're going to be a program to watch for the next couple of years just based off of how much money they get.
I mean, Tulane has more SEC championships than Kentucky. It's one of my greatest or my favorite statistics.
Down to 22.
College sports.
South Carolina ahead of them.
Oh, right there.
That is so shocking to me. So think about this. Just think about this real quick.
It would hurt my
because
soul.
You know who those two teams are going to be compared to, right? Us.
Yeah.
6-3.
Yeah. 6-3.
It is insane to me that they're now getting. I mean, I agree with it. There's an ACC bump over an SEC bump, but I mean, we played two.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, it's insane, but wow.
Yeah, but every single team that we've lost to on here. Well, I mean, I guess you could say the same for them. That's.
I believe it's the way that you lost, and I hate the quality loss argument.
That's true. No, I mean, but it's true. I mean, at the end of the day, your resume as a whole plays into this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just who you lost to; it is how. So it's nice to be up there at 6-3. Huh.
I get that they're 8-1, man. They played absolutely nobody.
Yeah. Well, but that you can also make the Indiana bias on that.
Mm-hmm.
Although, no, I want to, but I can't. Okay.
Sure.
I mean, okay. I wish I had them compared. I should have done side by side to compare them.
14.
That would still piss
14.
me off. Second
so
out.
They got Miami above them.
But they'll get in for right now for the G5.
So here's the interesting thing.
So they will get in as a 12 seed.
Yes, they'll be. Well, so I'm assuming BYU is above Boise State right now.
Yeah, they've got to be.
Georgia.
12. That's got to be a brutal day.
Dude, that's the lowest I've seen Georgia ranked in 4 years?
Yeah, I was about to say I can't remember the last time I seen them out of the top 10, which leads me to question. Okay, that's what I was questioning.
Here it comes.
That's impressive.
They're going to keep falling off. I'm telling you, they're going to have a late season explosion to where they're going to. Oh my God, Miami's not going to make the playoff. That's my hot take right now.
That's a bold take, Cam.
Has Notre Dame already played Southern Cal?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so they played literally nobody for the rest of the season.
Let me confirm that. I think they did, though. Oh, no, that's their last game.
Okay.
Who did they play? Oh, they played Stanford. Okay. That's who I was thinking. I knew they played somebody from out there. So
BYU at 7, I'm guessing. Is it going to be BYU? Old Rocky Top. Did you guys see there's a rumor going around that Nico may not play against Georgia?
Yeah, I saw that. I did see that.
It's big if true.
Yeah.
We still haven't talked about the Castellanos stuff tonight either.
We're not going to right now.
I just wanted to do this really quick because it was fresh on my mind.
Yeah, that's a can of worms for Thursday.
Yeah. BYU. Oh.
I mean, but at the end of the day, you can't argue it,
brother. They made the argument about Florida State last year.
Yeah, but they haven't lost anyone that, like, I understood. While I didn't agree with it, I at least understood the viewpoint. Like losing your starting quarterback. Like Indiana's not lost their starting quarterback. They've not lost.
Okay, but Florida State's backup last year is probably better than Indiana's starting quarterback right now.
But they've put together a 10-0 record with the team they have. I get it. I get both sides of it.
I just don't see it, but whatever.
We're gonna find out this weekend. Is it this weekend they play Ohio State?
No, it's next weekend. Indiana at 10-0, by the way, is the reason why these major conferences need to go to 9 conference games.
I think you'll see that the next couple of years, especially with this.
I don't trust Penn State either. Just do not trust them. Yep.
So who?
Ohio State,
and then Oregon. Yep.
It sounds crazy to say, but the team I trust the most there is Texas.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, honestly, I get Oregon at 10-0.
Yeah,
it's hard to argue it.
Not in the playoffs, though. Oregon in the playoffs, they're going to fumble it.
I think you put Oregon and Texas on the field. I don't think it's a close game.
I'm so interesting to see. So, like, let's say like Oregon. So the way that this will work right now, Oregon, they would get the first round bye. They would play either BYU or
Let me see if I can
Boise
pull the
State.
I feel like it's Texas all the way. I mean, in that top 4 right there.
I really think I think the draw matters a lot. But I'm so interested to see how do these teams look that get this first round bye. There it is, right there. You just have it.
Was that actually it, though? Was it the accurate one?
Yeah, that's accurate.
That's 2 days ago.
Oh, yeah, there's Miami. Scroll up a little bit.
There's one that was 42 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I just want the...
Right there.
Right there.
Oh, yeah, here it is.
So, okay. So, like, in this bracket right here, a team like Oregon's a perfect example. They get that first round bye, man. They could struggle against one of those 2 teams, especially if they get hot.
Hello.
But
I agree. I'm trying to play March Madness right now in my head already. I take Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee could be a Final Four team. This one I find interesting because of Alabama and Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I agree with you. I don't think Indiana is a superior team, but like my thing with it, and like this was the argument against taking Florida State out last year. If you have the record and you have a 10-0 record in a power conference, arguably one of the top 2 power conference, even at that. Just because you can't, they don't make their conference schedule.
So right there, that 10-7 matchup, if that happened, 2 things would happen. First off, Bloomington, Indiana would look like Bryant-Denny North, and Alabama would probably win by 5+ touchdowns. Is that what we really want in the college football playoff?
I think even going to 12 though, you're still going to get these occasionally. Because no offense, but like you can say the same thing about Boise State and Ohio State.
That's a much different circumstance.
I agree, but you're going to get a similar product.
Yeah.
Except you're at least going to get to see Genty.
Ole Miss is getting a hell of a draw there also.
Yeah. You Ole Miss is probably a Final Four team the way it shakes out.
Yeah.
I would actually love to watch Ohio State and Miami. That's probably one of the best games.
That would be a good one.
That would be one of the best games in this entire
first team.
This is the proper bracket.
First team to 100 wins.
Yeah. That would be murder.
I'm telling you though, man, so Louisville at 19, you are in the perfect position where if you go out there, just handle your business over the next 3 games, you could realistically backdoor your way into here somehow.
Oh, you look at all right, so take an Indiana loss.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana loss it's going to be at 7, that's probably going to be a crushing loss. Because at the end, the way I look at it, them having a 10-0 record and only being at 7, the playoff, they're looking for a reason to not include them.
Yeah.
So
we just saw it. We hit on it with Louisville being above both South Carolina and LSU. That's a college football playoff committee valuing the ACC more than the SEC. Let's say an Alabama or an Ole Miss takes another loss, which is very likely the way that the SEC's went this year.
It's true.
You could back your way in. Imagine it, a 10-7 Louisville-Indiana matchup.
What's the rest of Penn State's schedule?
It's the Big Ten. They play Ohio State and a bunch of nobodies. So
they've got Purdue, Minnesota, and Maryland left. So they're probably golden. Tennessee plays Georgia.
Yep.
So that could be one right there. What are you gonna do if Indiana beats Ohio State?
I just won't acknowledge it. I just won't acknowledge it.
Oh, welcome back, Cam. We're just gonna be right back here. And he was like, "Nope, this didn't exist. This didn't happen."
I'm like, didn't Louisville play today? Why the hell are we talking about Indiana?
Yeah, I think realistically, like I said, I think Notre Dame, they lose to Ohio State. That's a crushing loss. Like they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like not even ballparking it. Penn State slips up, gone.
Yeah,
gone. So gone. Not even funny. Tennessee, like I said, Tennessee's playing Georgia. And wait a minute. Are we forgetting something big here? I feel like I'm forgetting something big on Oregon's schedule. No, they've just got Washington and Wisconsin left.
That's the thing. That's the thing with the Big Ten, man. You play one of, essentially all these teams. Oregon will play one real game all season. Ohio State, Indiana.
This is your only 2 teams.
Yeah, they all just play 1 or 2 teams. It's not like, my God, I can't believe I'm finally able to make this argument as a fan of an ACC school. It's not like the ACC. In the ACC, you are legitimately playing top 40 teams every single week.
Yeah. You
can go off of FPI, SP+, whatever analytics service you want to go off of. The ACC is pound for pound from the top to the bottom, the best conference in football this year.
That's why I think FPI look like after this weekend. I haven't even looked.
Do you think the admission of SMU definitely benefited to our league?
The way they're playing this year?
beforehand they were looked as a not serious opponent coming from the AAC, right?
Let me put it this way: I was in that ballpark. Just being very honest and very truthful right now. If SMU were to play next week, Clemson, Miami, Louisville, in Charlotte, I would take all three of those schools over 10 points over SMU.
I would too. I think they snaked out of here. But I could say the same thing. Like I think I don't want to continue to be that guy. But just the way Louisville has lost or has its losses makes me want to throw things. Because like we're sitting here talking about, an SMU team. Are they good enough? And I'm sitting here, looking at ranked, our 3 losses being ranked, but by a score or less. And it makes me want to throw things. And I hate it because I don't think we should even be having this conversation. I feel like, there should be more red on this bracket.
Here's my super hot take. If Louisville didn't lose to SMU, they probably would be on that bracket right now.
100%.
Even with the losses to Notre Dame and Miami, they still would be.
Yeah.
You could interchange any of our losses with each other and say that we have like a 2-loss record, and it wouldn't matter. We would still be in the top 15.
Yeah.
And I think you see SMU at, what are we at, 19? You could see SMU hovering around there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think you could swap and then move Louisville up a couple of spots because you have the strength of schedule. In my opinion.
I just I think there's going to be a lot of chaos these last 3 weeks in the ACC.
I was saying there's going to be a lot of parity. It's been known. We've been known to have a lot of parity over especially in the last couple of weeks, man. Like, you could see any of the top 3 teams in our league blow up out of nowhere for no reason.
I just I don't think that Pitt beats Clemson. Like, I'm not buying onto that whole Louisville to the ACC title game thing. I don't think that happens at all.
Where's that game at?
Clemson.
Okay.
Clemson.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
It's not going to march. It's not going to march into Death Valley and win.
No, especially not 2 in a row for Clemson.
No,
but it would not surprise me at all to see Miami and SMU lose a game in the next 3 weeks. SMU, it's been a great ride so far, brother. I'm not trying to poo-poo on you. But at the end of the day, your backups are G5 level backups, and especially on the line of scrimmage. You're getting to that point in the year where your backups are going to start seeing 30-plus snaps a game, especially on the LOS. You're going to have deficiencies. I don't know who else they play the rest of the year, to be quite honest with you, but they're going to drop a game. I could see Miami because with Cristobal teams,
it's the same thing with Miami.
When one domino falls, it all goes with a Cristobal team.
He's always been benefited for having a greatly talented team, but his coaching has never benefited that team, and it's been proven time over time and over time. You look at Norvell at Florida State, and it's just like you get exposed after a while, and Miami's due for that time, especially after coming off of last week. I don't think they're going to bounce back.
To steal something from one of my really good friends, Mario Cristobal is the worst game day coach in Power 4 football.
Absolutely. He's people they have a short-term memory when it comes to, like, especially in Florida. they have a very short-term memory when it comes to the last season, the previous season. You look at Florida State, and then you look at Miami. They just don't they don't have any type of understanding of what consistency looks like.
Yeah.
I love the conversation, gentlemen. We have Thursday to talk about football.
Yeah, I'm
and lots of
tired.
Yeah, I have to wake up early. But appreciate everybody. Appreciate you guys watching.
It was a great night. What a great night. What a great interview, man. You guys did a fucking slammer tonight. And yeah, let's go Cards.
Absolutely. But we'll be back Thursday. I will see y'all boys later.
See you, man.
Have a good night. Go Cards.
Bye.
Bye.